You guys, I just got off work. It was a long one. That's what she said. Thank you guys so much for being here. In this second episode already of the e-learning series, I want to talk specifically about the Singer series. I want to talk about Foster Drake. I want to talk about all the good stuff. I want to yap about the canon, about what's not canon, the stuff that I did on the Patreon that some of you may or may not know. And also I mentioned in the Q&A that I did that I actually knew all along what the concept of the parent's death was going to be. Um and seeing as I'm not going to continue the series in the audio format that I was originally using for it, I thought it would just be a fun idea to kind of yap about it and see what the future could hold for it because um as some of you may know, okay, for starters, um yesterday I think I put a lot of fics that I wrote on the Patreon. I put it into the free tier, so everyone who just is a free subscriber to the Patreon can read over 20,000 words. I think at this point it's like you can read 20,000 word of fics plus, and then all of the first chapters of the long form fics that I'm doing on there, or that I did on there rather. I'm still doing them. Um, so it's a lot of free content that you get. I mean, I could cross upload everything to AO3, but I'd much rather just keep it in one place. It's kind of easier. So, that being said, let's talk about the Singer series. So, no, actually, first, hang on. Let me. Ow. My chest. Okay, let me crack open a Red Bull Zero. Hashtag not sponsored. Hashtag I wish. Hashtag not as good as the original. And I put it into an entire tub of ice that I previously put everything else in because my whole body hurts right now. So one tiny sip, and I'm ready. Okay, so the Singer series. So I started the Singer series wanting to create something that entailed more music. I always thought it was very out of place randomly that in the actress series when I started singing and stuff was always weird. And so I was like, okay, what can I do that's in my wheelhouse? And then I went for something that is completely not in my wheelhouse, and I made them bartender. It's so stupid. I don't know anything about drinks. I don't go to bars. I don't drink alcohol, so I don't know the next thing about cocktails or anything. Um, but I thought it was really nice to have this concept of like a family owned bar, um, which is just a very safe space to be in. It's very comforting. You can do whatever you want in there. And then when Blue came in, I was like, okay, it's nice to have this little meet cute as opposed to when Foster and the listener in the actress series, when we first met them, they were like established in an established relationship and stuff. So I was like, okay, I want to do this kind of like mutual attraction kind of thing. I want to have this bar. I want her to be a singer. And then I originally I think I've talked about this before. I wanted it to be much more like wholesome. I wanted it to be a lot more cute. And also, I wanted there to be like original music. I had a lot of ambitions to turning it into something like, big. I wanted her to do concerts. I wanted there to be like crowd noise, like, people just yelling for her and stuff. And all of that kind of went out the window because I realized this is very lazy of me to say, but I realized I was going to have to put in a lot more effort into the videos and to editing them and stuff. There were a couple of episodes in the actress series that I spent a lot of time editing on, like the pool episode, the season 2 episode 50, like the Alex episode and stuff. It's kind of like small things that required more editing than usual. But 99% of the actress series was just me pressing record, messing up maybe a few times to just, cut those things out and then just publishing it, which made it a very easy process for me because I could just start record YAP and then just upload it. And that's the reason why I managed to do 200 episodes in 1 year. Um, and then I got ambitious with the singer series, and I realized immediately that ambitious does not go well with what I wanted to do for the channel, which is a horrible thing to say. But I do mean it. I wanted it to have the same output. I wanted to have the same um what you guys were used to by now. A high output improv quality stuff, right? And that didn't match with a lot of editing for me. So I kind of naturally started pivoting to like the more like, okay, we have a bar, we have these characters, we have the Drake family, we have this huge trauma that hangs over everyone's head in that universe, which is obviously the night that the parents got murdered and stuff. And then we have this one character, Blue, which eventually turned into Taiki Winters, because I wanted to give her more of a actual like face and identity this time. Um, and then Taiki happened to have private detective background, and it like this her sister got involved, and I started just like horizontally expanding this world with new characters, and I realized that the I realized accidentally that the singer wanted to be a singer part of the show was the least interesting part of the show. So I started gravitating more towards the interpersonal conflict, started gravitating more towards the who done it, kind of the drama of that. And if I remember correctly, because I might say things that are super wrong this episode, because it's been a while, but I remember that I ended, it went on like the hiatus as soon as it came to the thing that Foster discovered that behind her back, uh, Mia and Dawson were talking to Taiki and or AJ, I think both of them, or just Taiki maybe, about um looking into their parents' death. And Foster didn't want her to, because she was like, this is not like, you're not going to find anything, you didn't ask me, this all feels super weird, I don't want to re-traumatize myself, yada yada yada. I'm gonna switch positions for a single second. Excuse me, I am injured and I need to move around a lot. Thank you. I think that's where it ended. And then I did like one follow-up where it was like, I'm gonna go be a singer and you do whatever you gotta do or something, basically. So it kind of ended on Foster kind of breaking contact with her family because she was like, I can't believe you've done this. Oh fuck, I can't believe you've done this. And basically just told them to go fuck themselves. Um I didn't like that very much. I don't like that it ended there. I don't like that it ended up on a point where everyone's basically just mad at everyone, especially because I didn't get a lot of time to develop Mia and Dawson specifically in the show. I think I remember that I talked about Dawson having drug issues and having been rehabilitated in the past. Um, and I think obviously that I talked about Mia being a chef, being a good chef, and also having, um, kind of like a bit of trauma, but trying to work, like trying to be more than her trauma kind of thing. There's also this whole storyline with Mia's chair. But why am I sound like I'm having a stroke. I can't think anymore suddenly. It's crazy. I'm so tired from work. Sorry guys. Okay, hang on. Sip of Red Bull. Maybe that's gonna wake me up. I don't know what just happened. I might be dying. Um, so she's kind of like she's fun. She tries to be more than what happened to her and stuff like that. And they're all very protective of each other, which is nice. But then I went to the fanfic world, and I think the first big one that I wrote, which I'm just gonna give you guys, the timeline of my process with this show, which was actually the majority of the character evolution happened in the fanfic world and not in the story in the series. Um, but so I started writing Olympus, and Olympus went off of that. Excuse me? Oh my, I totally thought someone just died just now. Did you hear that? I was like, I'm off the clock. I'm not resuscitating anyone. That was crazy. Okay. Um, there was a plot point when AJ showed up in the show that AJ is kind of an antagonist in the show. And I liked her as an antagonist in the show because she did what she had to do, which is bring conflict. But then the second that I went into the fanfic world, I was like, I like AJ. I was very intrigued when I started improving about the big thing that happened between them, the rift that caused these two to kind of, you know, fall apart. And I kept on thinking in the back of my head, like, I need to make a note of everything that I'm saying now about, like, oh, Taiki actually made a mistake, and that caused AJ to be injured badly. And that whole thing is gonna cause why AJ is mad at her. And I think it's so interesting that as soon as I write a villain in a show, I always kind of evolve into a gray area where eventually, if you look at them, you're like, I can kind of see where they're coming from. This isn't true for Lena and Theo, by the way, but um is there a redemption for Lena and Theo? I don't did Lena do anything good? I don't think so. I don't think well, I don't think Theo well, okay, well, let's not take too many turns, but yeah, the second AJ was introduced, I was like, I need to understand this character. I don't want her to just be a villain and just put threats on Taiki and Foster and everyone. Um, so I started writing Olympus, and Olympus was the flashback basically to what happened pre Foster and everything, and why these two drifted apart. I wrote the fanfic. I completed it, and then I did an audio version of it, which is on the channel. So if you haven't listened to that or read it, you can read it on the Patreon. You can listen to it um, in the video. But basically, Olympus was the story of Taiki being in college and being close with her sister. This thing takes place in Washington, D.C. They grew up in Washington. They had a mother, Judith Winters, who was very connected into the intelligence world, like FBI, CIA, that kind of stuff. Um, and she was basically grooming AJ and Taiki for intelligence work, especially AJ, the firstborn. She was very much like trained. She took like fancy classes. Her mother threw everything and every connection she had at her to kind of make sure that AJ was going to end up in intelligence work. And AJ kind of decided to not do that and start her own private investigation agency, which is called Olympus, because her name is Athena Jane. So she was like, okay, that's a fun brand. Let's do that. Um, and she kind of kicked her mother in the shins involuntarily. Well, or voluntary, I guess. It kind of depends on how you look at it. But so she has her own investigative agency using all of the tricks that she learned from her years of being groomed for intelligence work. Um, she has these employees and stuff, and Taiki's in college, and Taiki sometimes helps her because Taiki is like the young one, and in intelligence work and stuff, she's viewed as harmless because she's young and she's looks naive. So people don't see her as a threat, which is very like interesting. So Olympus kind of starts with Taiki being kind of pulled into a random it was like a theft, I think, somewhere, or like she had to go retrieve something, I'm pretty sure, in like a random office that was locked down, but she got bad intel. And so she was kind of, I think she ended up getting tasered or something. And it was like, I think it was like a whole thing of like she didn't get the right info, she didn't get the right briefing, and AJ was kind of careless, or AJ was like, she can hold her own, where her employees were like, can you not treat this kid as one of your employees? She's your sister, but she's not trained for field work and stuff like that. So the first like phase of that story was kind of Taiki wanting to prove herself to her big sister, AJ wanting to indulge her, but also kind of being careless in the way that she was treating her sister. And the whole thing moves into AJ tracking down a missing person case around Nevada, around Las Vegas. And the two of them actually end up flying over to Vegas to kind of do some like reconning. I don't remember exactly how it went, but basically it was a missing person case of a young couple, and AJ managed to do what no one else did and track down this girl, and she was apparently in Vegas. And the reason, Taiki goes along thinking like, oh, finally I can prove myself to my sister. She takes me along to this big mission and I'm gonna show her, that I can do it. And it turns out that the target, or it was like, it turns out that this woman is like an exotic dancer at like a bar, and she really just wanted Taiki to come because she knew that Taiki was gay. And she was kind of using that as a thing of like, oh, I'm gonna put her in this bar because she, you know, looks more at home in a bar full of naked women. So that was kind of like a, I don't even know if that's a microaggression, that's an aggression. Um, but Taiki kind of develops this bond with the girl, Jordan is her name. And long story short, because, obviously if you want to read it, you can read it. But Taiki ends up kind of having feelings for her for the pretty much the very first time. So it's this whole process of like, I'm gay. What does this mean? What are these feelings? I'm so inexperienced, and also knowing like you are my target. You're a missing girl. What am I doing? And it kind of all boils down to AJ thinking she knows best for the mission, which technically she does, and Taiki kind of choosing to subvert her sister and choose Jordan and Jordan's health and well-being over the mission. Um, if it were up to her, if Jordan told them, please don't say anything about where I am, she would have stayed quiet about it. Whereas AJ is like, this is the case, this woman is missing. We need to tell the world where she is. And so long story short, I've said that 3 times now and I'm still yapping, but long story short, um, there's a moment where there's like a drop off of money, I think, that Jordan's indebted to scary people, and they decide to kind of give the money that she owes. Um, and in return, she's debt free and she can walk and she can leave Vegas and go back home. Um, and the drop off is something like AJ AJ wants to take the bullet metaphorically, so she kind of goes to the drop off, offers to go to the drop off, I think, in order to make sure that they get the money or whatever, risking her own life. And instead, Taiki lies to her. Jesus, I don't remember. But basically, Taiki lies to her, to AJ, to kind of save Jordan or help Jordan, or what she thinks helps Jordan, and ends up getting her sister beat up. Oh, I remember. Her sister was gonna wait in the hotel room with the money until she got like a drop off location. And Taiki actually sent the people to the hotel room, I think, thinking that there was police waiting there, but it was actually just AJ. And she got completely like mauled by these people. She got assaulted super bad, like she was gravely injured. And so Taiki gets this news that her sister is close to death and realizes, like, oh, I did this. I'm responsible for this. My negligence and or thinking that I know better has caused my sister to almost die. Um, and when she's like in the hospital, like when she gets their mother comes in and insists that AJ is like flown away on like a private medical aircraft back to DC, where the doctors are like, don't do that because she's critical. This is a horrible idea. Don't air travel with her for hours. But Judith is basically like, I know best. I want the best um, doctors and stuff for my daughter. So she kind of ends up saying fuck you to the doctors and taking her anyway. And Taiki, it's in that moment that Taiki kind of gets ostracized from the family because AJ's like, fuck off. I don't ever want to see you again. You know, I gave you a chance to prove yourself and you completely ignored my orders and you completely fucked me over and betrayed me. Um Actively going against her sister to try and save Jordan. Um so that's kind of where Olympus ends. Olympus technically ends with when she's like in the hospital and she just got kicked out. She goes to the elevator, I think, and then a friend from college sends her a message being like, hey, I'm working on this app, you know, do you have some time to kind of, you know, I'd love for you to be in on it. So that's kind of where that whole app millionaire social thing originated too. So after that, basically Taiki gets kicked out, she does the app, she becomes a millionaire from selling it, and then leaves DC to go be wherever the bar is, and then meets Foster, meets the Drakes at Ducky's. Which location? The location of that is never mentioned. I think I'm purposefully not pinning it down because I'm like, I don't want to tell. I don't want to say that it's like in Arizona or Seattle or New England. It genuinely doesn't matter where it is. Um, so let's talk about the Drakes. um, Basically, okay, no, actually. Okay, I'm doing 1,000 things at once. Let's just, we have time. It's okay. We have time. Meryl Streep, Mamma Mia. Never seen that movie. Only seen the TikToks. Um, the Drakes. So the Drakes have a lot of family drama. Um, and I need to kind of remember what the canon was on that, but I'm pretty sure the canon was that the three of them, okay, so Dawson had his drug issues. His parents basically like kicked him out or something, or like, you know, were mad at him, wanted him to go into rehab and stuff. He was acting up about it, blah 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 blah. Then the nay, am I a horse? The night of the home invasion, excuse me, Red Bull, excuse yourself. The night of the home invasion, Mia and Foster were upstairs. Dawson was downstairs arguing with his parents, yelling at them, which to me was, and I don't know if that was established, but I'm pretty sure it was actually like get your shit together. We're not just giving you money just so you can go ahead and buy drugs, all of that kind of stuff. And then Foster and Mia are upstairs. Then they hear glass breaking, I think, and then they hear the gunshots. Then one of them rushes upstairs, or both of them, basically, and they go for Foster. They attack her. Mia tries to save her sister, I think, and then gets like beat up, pulled into the hallway, dangled over the edge, thrown over the edge. And then she lands on like a vase or something, or like a dresser, something that was in her path downstairs, lands on it on her lower back, and then, you know, that's the end of that for her. Um, and then Foster is like, I don't remember if she was like semi conscious and hearing her sister like yell out in pain or something, or she just completely lost. I think she lost consciousness. And then she woke up with like paramedics being there and Dawson being there, I'm pretty sure. I think that's what we know. And then I think Dawson's side of the story was that that the parents were yelling at him, that he left. And then when he came back after he cooled down or after wherever he went, he found Mia, then found his parents, and then found Foster, I'm pretty sure. That's what I remember. You guys are welcome to correct me in the comments. Now here's the thing. They were always looking for these two perpetrators that were masked, or like they had balaclavas on or something. And I think it was like when I developed that, initially I didn't really have an idea of what I was going to do with it. But the second I stopped recording that episode, I think it's 16. I want to say 16. I don't think it's right, but the one episode where she talks about the whole thing that happened. I remember stopping to record that episode when I was done, and I was like, okay, this is opening up a can of worms. And here's the thing. There's two directions that you can take with that stuff. You can Okay, actually, no, there's three. The one that's completely uninteresting is that it's a random attack by two random people, and eventually we're going to learn that it's two random people that just picked out a house. Neurologically, I'm like an old person yelling at a bus stop. Narratologically, story-wise, that's the most uninteresting thing ever. Because there's no connection, there's no emotion. You learn that it's a random thing. That's not satisfying for a story. So that wasn't going to be it. Then you have a thing of, okay, what if it's connected? Or maybe it's like random people, as in characters you don't know yet, but eventually you realize that you knew them all along. Like, what if it turns out that it's Taiki and AJ all along? It's not. But it's like, that's like the second option, is that you randomly introduce, these are Diego and Tony, my two friends from school, and then later it turns out that they were them. That is interesting, but also that required like a setup that was going to be way more ambitious than what I was able to do with it. So I was like, okay, that leaves one option. And the one option is that it's directly connected to the characters. And the second I stopped recording, I was like, okay, but the answer technically has been in front of us all along. Where I was like, okay, so what happened in my head was that Dawson was looking for drugs, or needing money for drugs, or needing money for something. He went to ask his parents about money. His parents saw right through the thing of like, you're not asking for money, you're not asking for gas money. You just want to use that money to go buy drugs. And he got mad. And he left with a slamming door. And I think in that moment, he was so mad, and he knew, I think there's something, but I don't know if I set it up or not. I don't remember if I set it up, but there was something with Dawson knows the amount of cash money that's in that house because they have a bar, and a lot of that bar stuff is just cash. So he knows he can't exactly go like stealing from the bar because that's obvious, but he knows there's money in the house. And what he does is he can't do it himself. But I think he called up two people that he knew that we don't know right now, but that doesn't matter because they're proxies of Dawson. And he called them up and he was like, if you want money, there is money in that house. And those people downstairs, you can fuck them up because of what they did to me. Because he was so mad that his parents just refused to help him. And I don't think that he ever, ever, ever wanted it to get that bad. I don't think he ever meant for them to die or for Mia and Foster to get hurt. I think he said it in a sense of you can kind of beat them up, make it look real, make it look like, a real home invasion. And these two people that he trusted, air quotes, just ended up being monsters. And I think that is absolutely the most realistic and gruesome outcome of that story. Because the second he comes back in, knowing that he's going to walk in on, his parents kind of being bonked on the head and all the money being gone, which he knows that that money eventually is going to come back to him, you know. And he comes in and he sees his sister laying there, having been paralyzed. He finds his parents both dead. And he's like, fuck. Like, I don't even, I can't even begin to think what went on in his head at that point of just wanting to stage this as a robbery and just get the cash money that he thought he had a right to because he worked the hardest. When their parents were alive, they had the bar. Foster was in college. Mia was studying. She was going to be a chef. There was no involvement of them in the bar. They were there, but they didn't work there. Dawson worked his ass off in that bar. So he felt like he had a right to that money, in a way. And fuck, he realized that everything got so out of control. And at that moment, he's also like, I can't talk about this. I can't let anyone know that I did this. I can't rat them out because they're gonna immediately tell everyone that he ordered them to. And as long as he doesn't say anything and Mia and Foster don't remember the faces because they're wearing masks and there's no evidence of them, then that's just a cold case. And it needs to stay a cold case. I think that's the thing that I envisioned. The one thing that doesn't 100% make sense with that is that why it would then be Dawson and Mia actively asking Taiki to investigate it. But I kind of did that with the intent of it's been years and Dawson is carrying this guilt from day to day. He got sober, especially, knowing what happened. He got sober. Every day he sees his sister in a chair. Every day he sees the future that Foster and Mia had to give up to be in that bar with him. And he's just like, I can't do it anymore. I'd like to think that by the time the Singer series starts, Dawson is in a place where he's just like, if it comes out, then it comes out. Because I deserve the karma that's been hanging above my head for years. And that they deserve to hate me. They have a right to know. but I also don't think that he can tell them himself. So I think he was like, I need someone to uncover this just to be done with it. Um, which makes Dawson such an interesting character. And I know there's people who hate Dawson, and I know that I've made like, especially in like the fiction and stuff, Dawson is I I did By Blood, which is like half of it I did a narration of on the channel as well, which was not canon per se, but also like a long form fic, which was basically like a love triangle between AJ, Mia, and Dawson. Basically, both of the Drake siblings kind of have a crush on AJ, and AJ has to kind of choose between them. And obviously, since most people that watch and listen to me are gay, are lesbian, um, everyone rooted for AJ and Mia. And I mean, I do too. I like them together. But that kind of leaves Dawson as a bit of a boogeyman or a bit of a sad, yearning figure. And he's likable. He's like very good with like the books and stuff. It's like canon that he helps motorcycle builders, that's a joke, that he helps Taiki and AJ at Olympus with like the books, the finances and stuff, because he's good at numbers. Um, so he's a good guy. He's very protective over his sisters. He's very, no nonsense about people when it comes to like people mocking Mia and stuff like that. So I like him as a character. But I've always had this knowledge that he's been struggling with that. And I think that's so interesting because what do you do with that as the years go by? I think secretly he wanted it to get to a point where maybe Foster like emancipated from the bar, became famous in her own right, and then Mia got better to the point of where she maybe got to work in like a different kitchen or so. I think secretly he really wants his sisters to have their own lives because then I think that would be the trigger for him to be like, okay, now that you guys like have your own thing, now I can come clean about what happened or something. But I think them all being at the bar together and them all being like claustrophobically, it's only the three of us against the world kind of thing. I think that's really what fucks him up in the head. Um, and I think it's also canon that he's relapsed maybe like a few times. Um, just because it's hard, man. It's even weird to talk about. Um, but that's the thing. There's a couple of people that ask me questions on Tumblr, which I really love, by the way. If you guys have questions, you can like send them anonymously or whatever. I'll answer them. A couple of people have sent in like writing questions, and like a lot of those questions are like, how do you write like realistically, or like how do you do character development and stuff? And I think the biggest thing there is just you can't be afraid to hurt your character's feelings. We all have this like maternal instinct. We put a lot of, if we write OCs or draw them or whatever outlet you have, if you write these characters, you automatically have a thing of like, oh, I like this person. I want to protect this person. This person is dear to me. This is a part of me that I'm writing. Maybe not explicitly, but it's always going to be a part of you. It's like a Horcrux. Um, and so you automatically have this reflex of just wanting them to be happy. And people can be happy, but characters, I don't really believe that characters are meant to be happy in that sense. Cuz you learn and you grow by becoming and learning. And in order to do that, you need to get out of your comfort zone. This is the same with life in general. If you just sit all day and do your routine and never go outside of what you know, then there's never going to be more to life than that. And with characters, especially, you need to dive deep to understand them. There's like a scene, I'm writing a fic right now on the Patreon called Ready to Shoot, which is a crossover between the actress series and the singer series. And the concept of it is that they're shooting Inferno, so Foster and Sophia and Lenny, the showrunner, they're, out shooting Inferno in Los Angeles, and there's this tabloid thing, or there's like a gossip mill on set that kind of spills over into these gossip websites and stuff, and all of it is like lies. Some of it is true, and they're just like, there's a mole on set. There's someone who's like really out to get us, and so they call Olympus Agency, and they call AJ to be like, can you help us? Because they're saying you're the best in the biz, kid. And AJ's like, yeah, sure. Let me bring Taiki as my um I was gonna say assistant, but she's not, but like her coworker, I guess. Employee. That was the word I was looking for. That's nice. That's nicey. And then they're also like, can we bring the Drake siblings because they've been through hell and we kind of just want them to have a vacation. Dawson doesn't go because he doesn't want to leave the bar behind. And he doesn't think he deserves good things ever since what happened. But you guys don't know that. But now you know that. That's nice, isn't it? Welcome to my world of backstories and plot twists. Um, so AJ has this kind of crush on Mia. Mia has this crush on AJ. Foster and Taiki are an established couple, and they kind of see both of their sisters being dumbasses toward each other, to be like, oh, but I don't deserve her. She's too good for me. And then the other person goes, I don't deserve her. She's too good for me. And it's exhausting. And there's so much conflict. There's so much conflict in that fic. Every episode or like every chapter, whatever, they're going through it. They're yelling at each other. There's like a scene between Mia and Taiki where Mia literally is like, oh, because Taiki wants to go rogue to go solve the mole thing because AJ's too busy fawning over Mia. And Mia kind of stops her to be like, you're doing the exact same thing you were doing in Vegas. You're going rogue, and your sister, everyone's going to get hurt because of it. And then Taiki's like, what the fuck are you talking about? If anyone's hurting my sister, it's you, because you're hurting her feelings by not reciprocating them. And then Mia, like, throws back this low blow of, like, oh, so what are you gonna do? You're just gonna throw money at the mole just to keep them quiet? Well, you with money, that's how you solve everything, isn't it? Which is a super sensitive subject because Taiki has the money to basically, take the Drakes out of their debt and stuff and help the bar, but they don't allow her to give the money because, they feel bad about getting her charity in that sense. So it's a super low blow for her to be like, well, you just throw money at shit and then expect everything to be a-okay. And it's just this back and forth of these two characters that actually really like each other, just low blows after low blows, and just like, oh, who do you think you are? Is that how you see me? Well, it's hard not to see you like that. And I remember the people, like the Patreon people in the chat, everyone was like, I don't like this conversation. And I'm like, I know, I hate it too, but isn't that fun? You can't just write wholesome after wholesome, and you can't do a slow burn romance without a little drama. You can't do characters without them having disagreements over stuff. And every now and then, you just need to lay stuff out on the table in order to kind of be like, okay, obviously I had some issues. Obviously, there was some stuff that I had to talk to you about and that I just couldn't get to. And now it all came up in this weird and awkward and horrible way. That's so human. It's so human to lose your patience with someone and to secretly to have all these little things that annoy you about someone, but not to voice them because you're like, I can't tell that person that because that's weird. But then all of a sudden, like, it reaches a point where you're like, I can't stand this person anymore because of all these little things. So, yeah, I like it. I like writing conflict, and I like writing characters that I love into situations that are not good for them because that's when you see what they really are. So, I think the last thing I kind of wanted to talk about, um, I guess is kind of like the future of the Singer series, which honestly, I know this is kind of unsatisfactory, but the honest truth is that I don't really know. I'm not gonna like do the audio series anymore, but I am doing a lot of like Patreon fixin' stuff. And I think that I want to write the story where they finally understand what happened because I do think those characters deserve the closure of it. And I think it'd be interesting if Dawson maybe like admits it to like AJ first or something. And AJ's like, holy fuck, like what, and then she's kind of torn between having to keep this very, very dark secret or indulging him or helping him or like what does she do with it? I think it would be such an interesting character study to individually see all of those people and how they would look at that and the knowledge of that. Like, I don't want to go too much out of my way, but I'm like, I think Foster is someone who would be like done. She's usually like a pretty, I can see all sides of this person, but I think if she learns that, knowing what she knows about Mia, what happened to Mia, what happened to their parents, and how much specifically Mia had to sacrifice, knowing that she did it to save her from getting like, her nose kicked in. I think Foster is like a definite don't ever talk to me again. Don't ever contact us. You're done. You're done. Um but I think Mia's been like secretly needing to know the truth for so many years now and I think Mia might have in some way considered that as a possibility before because I think Mia put two and two together of like, Dawson leaves. Leaves with like a slamming door. He's high. People come in. Everything's messed up, and then Dawson comes back, and it's. I think Mia might have secretly already thought about the possibility, but always blocked it out because she's like, what if I'm wrong about that? And that would be a horrible thing to accuse anyone of. But then if it turns out that it's true, I think Mia should be the more angry out of the two people. She has more. Oh, I was going to say she has more leg to stand on about that. I'm sorry, Mia. She can stand. It's not offensive. She can stand for a few at a time. So my pun worked. I love it when a plan comes together. I think Mia is allowed to be more angry, but I don't think she is. I think Foster is more angry on Mia's behalf. I think Mia would be more like, I kind of knew it. That really sucks. But also, I've seen the pain that he's been in for these last years, and I see how much he's tried to become a better person and try to redeem himself. And the way that he kept that bar going when he could have given up on it, he could have been like, we're just going to sell the bar. You can work in a random restaurant, you can be a singer, whatever. I'm going to go, I don't know, become a professional darts player. I don't know what his story is. But he didn't. He stuck to that bar out of a sense of obligation or guilt or loyalty. And I think she respects that in some way. And I think that's why she wanted to stay as well and be in the bar and cook bar food that is so underneath her level of skill. So I'd like to think that I'm not going to say forgives him, but I'd like to say that she understands in that sense. So, all in all, when I look back on what I did with the show, I'm kind of unsatisfied with how I left it. I think if I only did like I want to say 60 episodes or something, which is, still kind of a lot, but not enough in order to do what I wanted to do with it. However, I do like that Olympus, By Blood, Now Ready to Shoot and stuff all offer these little tableaus into their lives. And some of the things I like and I stick with as canon, some things I don't, which is what makes it hard to follow. I'm not like pretending that this whole stuff is like half of what I just told you guys are going to be like, "What?" Because, this thing doesn't exist. It's not a real show. It's just me writing shit and just taking the bits that I love and leaving the bits behind that I don't. So there's no canon to something that's just in my head. I sound like this is like a psych interview. I'm the point is, um, I don't blame you guys for not being able to follow along when it's literally just me improving and doing whatever. Um, but I'd like to explore more. I'd like to see a future with these characters. We had this like funny discussion on the Patreon chat where we were talking about the like AUs that we wanted to do. And one of the ones that I offered was like Foster, like an AU where Foster is a famous singer. Taiki is like her personal assistant and like the social media manager kind of stuff. Like her, the person who runs her life. And then Dawson is like her manager because he's, the money guy. Mia is like a personal chef and also like her sister, obviously. So kind of tags along a lot of places. And AJ works like somewhere as like private security or something. And at some point she gets fired from that. And Taiki's like, "Oh, I can fix you a job, maybe, with like my employer." And so she ends up kind of being a bodyguard or like a private security person to Foster, who's like a famous pop star. And I thought that's interesting because it's like, again, the slow burn between her and Mia, maybe, or Dawson, maybe, if we're going to be straight. It's Pride Month. Let's not. But, I thought that was fun. I think there might be more to explore with those characters. Okay, that was me yapping about the Singer series. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you guys have any idea about a next episode of e-learning, let me know. And oh gosh, I'm like, is there like a factoid or something that I want to end on? Because it's learning. I know you guys learned a lot. You guys learned what happened. I put the bar too high myself. This is what I do. Thank you guys for being here. I can't wait to talk to you guys again. Bye bye.